The call of the Hogs can be heard all the way to San Francisco.
You're listening to Pod at the Palace with Curtis Wilkerson on Inside Arkansas.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday, and welcome back to the Pod at the Palace. I'm your host, Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas. Shout out to the Coffee Club, getting after it bright and early, and everyone else tuning into the show throughout the day today. I got to tell you, it feels good to talk hoops again after a wild weekend of football coaching search nonsense, craziness, which, hey, this is a basketball show, and that's what we're going to talk about today and every day. So I will make my connection to this here, and I'll make my plea now to the U of A. I'm Team Silverfield. This isn't his fault. I hope that he kills it here. I'm rooting for him. He has my support. Can't wait to hear what he has to say, see the roster that he builds, the staff that he puts together. Let's get after it. But I'm not going to pretend that the reaction to this hiring is anything other than what it was. They will introduce him at the Louisville basketball game Wednesday evening. Razorback fans, call the Hogs with your new coach. Okay? He's already here. He's already working. He's one of us now. I don't know what the full reaction will be in there, but he is not the source of your frustrations. He's here to try to fix them. But I do know the reactions so far. And I also know the folks at the U of A have a startling lack of awareness to the moment. Do this before the game. Do it at the beginning of halftime. Whatever. I don't care. But whatever you do, I am begging you, do not trot Hunter Yurachek out there on that floor with him. Don't do it. This is a massively important game for John Calipari, for the Razorbacks, and it should be a great environment in there. Be smart about this. Do not kill the vibe in that building. Please miss Bud Walton with that bad energy. I am begging you. Leave the boss man on the sidelines. Let's celebrate the new football coach. Okay, actual hoops. Warning, sort of. I'm probably going to tell you some things that you don't want to hear today about your Arkansas Razorbacks basketball team, but don't shoot the messenger, because that's not the goal here. I'm just trying to prepare you in advance for some of the things that you're going to see today. More importantly, I'm also going to tell you why I'm confident that the pain is only temporary and that this basketball team is going to be more than fine. This is an upbeat, glass half full Pod at the Palace, my friends. So let's get right into it and let's get started. First, by welcoming our sponsors for the day. We appreciate OZK Insurance. Nobody wants to deal with the hassle of shopping around, and that's why I use and recommend OZK Insurance. They're based right here in Arkansas, and they shop multiple carriers to find the best coverage and price for you, whether it's home, auto, business, you name it. Whether it's Saturdays at Razorback Stadium or everyday life, you want protection you can count on. With over 600 five-star Google reviews, I think you can probably go ahead and count on OZK Insurance. Get a free online quote today at ozkinsurance.com or call 479-715-4200. It's OZK Insurance, protection made simple. Okay, so I watched the extended highlights a couple times of both the Michigan State and the Duke games late Saturday night. Couple things that stood out to me just right off the top. Duke, very clearly better than Michigan State. Michigan State is very good, don't get me wrong. Duke, better. More talented, run their stuff better, more versatile skill sets. They just are. The second thing, though, guys, I get it. We didn't get the result that we wanted. Frustrating. Dang it. Arkansas looked way better against Duke than they did Michigan State. Like night and day. So we were wondering, like they played Michigan State. They had those 4 games against mid-majors, and they kind of stunk it up in a couple of them. We were like, dang, is this team really getting any better? Yes. Yes is the answer to that question. A better showing against a better team. Again, the end result wasn't there. I think there were some very real signs of growth with the Razorbacks. Believe it or not, Arkansas made some real strides defensively. I was impressed with a lot of what they did, even more so on the second glance from that Duke game. I don't understand why they just left TB kind of out on an island there against Boozer. But they really did have Duke shook for multiple stretches, and no other team has done that to him this season. Arkansas did a hell of a job in a lot of ways, just the one critical area they really struggled with. But it was pretty much not having an answer for Boozer. The other things, just some communication stuff that's going to evolve, and it's better than it has been. It really was. outside of that, they really gave Duke nothing. I was pretty impressed with it. I think I said it in the report card, and I feel even stronger about it, talking about it this morning. I was starting to wonder a little bit, like, what can Arkansas be defensively? I don't think they're going to be a bad defensive team, but I was like, are they just going to be kind of average and need to score a bunch? Or are they really going to be able to dig their heels in and guard and get those stops? Can they be that top 25 defensive team that they've been more often than not the last several years? And I really believe that they can. Feel good about it. They really didn't give Duke much. To tell you the truth, some of it was stupid and irritating. Like I just remember, a great defensive possession, and Trevin blocks Boozer right there at the rim, and then the big fella is there for Duke, just like an easy corral, falls right into his hands, easy putback. And it's like, well, that stinks. This guy was just in the right place at the right time. Same dude, Patrick Ngungwa, the 7-footer. Remember when he bricked that 3 off of the side of the backboard, and Ewan turned around like he was going to go rebound it, but when you turn around, you're not expecting it to hit the side of the backboard right in front of you. And so it goes right back into his hands, easy bucket. It's like, what the heck is this? Boozer, at one point there late in the game, legitimately trying to throw a lob. Very poor pass, turned out to be a great shot. He made it. Like, that stuff is just frustrating, honestly. And, maybe that's just the luck of the Blue Devil or whatever. I don't know, but I can't really fault Arkansas too much for that. It's just like, gosh, man, tough luck, The offense really was better for most of the game, too. Duke is, they're nasty defensively. They're really locked in. Their team defense is solid. Their rotations are on point. They were loud. They communicate. Those guys talking to each other, pointing at each other. They were pretty far along for a team early in the season. They were blitzing the heck out of ball screens, and I really thought that Darius Acuff handled that extremely well, because that can be a turnover waiting to happen. In fact, they did turn Billy over with it, but I thought Acuff did a great job with it. Arkansas limited turnovers for the most part. They kept that ball moving, and they had some stretches in there for sure, mixed in where, it's against a really good Duke defense, but some of the dry spells, even, they were generating pretty good looks. The shots just weren't falling. They missed some shots that they just need to make. And in past years, I would look at that and be like, well, they missed those shots because they're just not a good shooting team. I'm not talking about just threes, but, pull-up jumpers, open looks, stuff in the paint. This team is. So I really think they're going to be okay there. The shot selection wasn't always great, but it wasn't awful like it was in East Lansing, like it has been in some other games. They were spread out a little bit more when there were some questionable looks, I felt like. I feel really good about where the freshmen are. Still not finished products, but they're growing up. I mean, that was Acuff looked good, first of all. But that was the hardest I've seen him play defensively. And I thought he really held up pretty well there. He made some high IQ plays, some tough shots. He caught a lot of attention. A lot of eyeballs were open to the Darius Acuff experience in this game. And that was good to see, because he had struggled a little bit the 2 games before that. Turnovers aside, I thought Billy really brought it. He played hard. You got to cut those down. We know the deal with Bill. TB, I thought when he wasn't put in terrible positions there, mano a mano with Boozer in the paint, he was great, especially the first half. The first half, he was really good. Second half, a little quieter. I think he was running on fumes by the end. And that goes back to your depth at that position. I think Arkansas is really going to play 2 bigs, like Pringle and Ewan in this game, especially with Pringle in some foul trouble. And you couldn't do the Carter Knox thing. You couldn't get away with the Carter Knox thing, because there are plenty of teams out there where he's going to be able to contribute and give you some good minutes at the 4. This wasn't one of them. And Michigan State wasn't one of them. Maybe that contributed to some of the struggles that he's had in those games. We'll talk about him in a minute. But now TB was all right. I'm fairly encouraged by Malik Ewan. He had a couple head scratcher moments in there. Needs to chill on the celebrations and sprint back. Frustration foul at one point after a turnover. I don't remember if it was even his turnover, but he was involved in the play. That's some little things like that, but he's definitely playing harder much more consistently. Starting to get his confidence back a little bit. Some of those shots he missed, I feel like he's going to start making as he continues to play. He's got a ways to go. He's trending in the right direction. I mean, heck, a week ago, the dude was left dead, in terms of like where he's going to fit with this team. We were just thinking, good, can they play him 10 minutes, please. Can you just, not screw this up in that long? And now I like look forward to him coming into the game. So I think he's making some progress there personally. Second watch, if I'm being honest, I thought Pringle played kind of poorly in this one compared to what I felt in the moment. And it's not just because of the Boozer matchup. He was a little bit late on some rotations, several missed opportunities there on the boards. He needs to pick it back up a little bit. That was a tough assignment for him. I get it. I don't think we have crazy expectations for Pringle, but again, like if you're starting SEC center, you got to get a defensive rebound in a game, and he knows that. I don't worry about him too much. He's got such a good head on his shoulders. I think he's a leader on the team. He's going to be okay. But most of the problem areas, team-wise, in my opinion, very much things that are going to continue to improve organically. And we'll talk about some trends with Cal from that standpoint. Cal might have this team right where he wants them. I know it sounds crazy because you've lost these 2 games, but if you kind of look at how his team's track, again, we'll talk about it in a second, they're pretty much on schedule here. But I think one thing that stands out with this group right now is slowing down runs and momentum swings before they really, really snowball on you. For example, it happened to Arkansas in each half, but that 10-0 run that they gave up in the first half when, they were up and then all of a sudden it was tied, then you're down double digits before you know it. Like, what happened there? Because this all happened so quickly, and you look at it, and it all started with Carter Knox. He got caught sleeping on a slip screen. His man just slipped right in front of him. Boom, layup, easy work. And then you got Malik Brown for Duke. He sets a moving screen on Trevin, and it frees up Boozer for a corner 3 on a baseline inbounds. Should have been an offensive foul that was called, but it wasn't. And then Boozer just blew right by TB on a middle drive, kind of in transition. TB was just on his heels and wasn't locked in there. No help, layup. Okay. Then you had Nick Pringle, really poor pass out of the paint where he's kind of trying to kick it back out to the perimeter. It got stolen, transition dunk. Okay. Then Darius Acuff comes down. He's trying to stop the run. He's got the right idea. Like, hey, we need to stop the run. The way to do that is to get a good shot. And it was one of those no pass possessions. He pulled up like a contested 16-footer with 2 hands in his face. No good. And then, after that, you've got Pringle who stays with the guard too long after a little bit of a lazy hedge in the ball screen, lets him turn the corner, and then it's just an easy pick and pop that he can't recover for. Boozer hits a 3. It's just like boom, 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 boom. All that stuff happened right away. And Arkansas didn't have any body or anything to slow it down. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't get the stop and the rebound, and then you get it to Acuff, and he's like, all right, guys, go down there and set up. We're going to run some stuff. We're going to get a good look here. You didn't have anybody who made that big shot or got that bucket. Nothing to slow the momentum. That's something that's going to come with this team as they continue to play. I believe, at least. It took like 90 seconds for all that to happen. Seriously. And I was like, gosh. And then they settled in. The run, the last 90 seconds of the first half that got them back in it. And, it was a 6-point game at halftime. You felt like they got a little momentum back. It was really good. An excellent possession in there with a couple extra passes that led to that Darius Acuff rhythm 3 that he knocked down. Big shot. They had some defense to offense, fueling the transition. You got Malik Thomas going, got his first bucket there for a layup. And then the big run has to get control back in the second half. Go back and watch that. There's that long stretch from the end of the first half into the second half when Arkansas took control, a 22-6 run. If they can bottle that up and start doing it it's going to be tough to do it for 40 minutes a game, but longer stretches, this team's going to be hard to deal with. Man, the defense was absolutely swarming. They had Boozer frustrated for that stretch. Some big-time shot making from your freshmen, both Acuff and Thomas. That stuff just didn't translate to executing in winning time. And that's the other thing. Slowing down those runs and carrying over the good moments from the game into winning time and closing it out. I roll my eyes, at least sometimes when I hear Cal talk about it. I've got to teach these guys how to win. I got to drag them across the finish line. I'm like, what are we talking about? Well, he's right. Okay, he is. And I'm not saying that they had lemon booty, but they did revert back to some bad habits the last 3 minutes on offense and defense. Couldn't come up with the stops, although it was just kind of the Boozer fest in there. But like after Leak, you remember that circus 3 that he hit and it cut it to 1? That's crazy. You got the momentum. The crowd is loud. All you got to do is dig in there and get a stop. And then immediately, when Duke crosses half court, you get Carter and Trevin caught in a switch. and that had Trevin then on Caleb Foster. And so then suddenly he overhelps. Foster's hanging out on the perimeter, kick out, rhythm three, bang, 4-point game. And that felt like a dagger for Arkansas right there. So yeah, I mean, stuff still to work on. Obviously, I don't want to oversell. You lost the game, but I'm encouraged by a lot of what we saw. And there are fewer things, in my opinion, that they've got to improve on, or that they haven't improved on yet. I guess is my point here. But like some individual guys, you know, I mean, obviously Arkansas's got to get more out of DJ and Carter Knox, right? They're too important to this conversation for the Razorbacks as returning pieces from that team. There's just like a baseline level of expectation you have for them that they're not quite meeting yet. But I will say on the rewatch, and I love when I have time to do this, in a lot of ways, DJ played pretty well. He only played 16 minutes, and I get it, you know why, but I thought he had great energy. He was really good defensively. Had a couple moments in there, but early on, especially, he was really effective on that end of the floor. He was aggressive, looking to drive at middle on his touches. Had a really nice 2-man game play with Nick Pringle that got him that and one. I just felt like with DJ, it was more like he got lost in the shuffle with Acuff being on a heater, and then Arkansas needed Malik Thomas's scoring threat when they were playing from behind there. So I understand that. So, you know, maybe he'll be fine. He had several open looks that he didn't cash in on. Like, you've got to take advantage of those opportunities. I think he had 3 pretty much point blank threes that he missed. You got to make one of them. And if you do, with some of the other things you were doing, maybe you would have been able to stay out there. So that's one thing. Carter, a little bit more kind of like a train wreck. I don't, you know, Cal calls him a car crash in an endearing way. He looked lost out there to me, kind of overwhelmed, out of sorts, uncomfortable. You could tell right away that it might not be Carter's night. And I hate when that happens, but drives it straight out of bounds. There's no room on the baseline. He drives it straight out of bounds, you know, on one of his first touches there. Maybe it was his first touch. Actually fumbles a pass thrown right at him on the wing for his second. You know, he had some defensive focus lapses. We talked about the one where the guy slipped right in front of him. I thought he had a heck of a time, you know, with Cohen Carr from Michigan State and his athleticism and everything. And then Cam Ward against Michigan State, particularly when he was playing the 4. I felt like Carter might have been bothered some by Dame Sarr, his length in there. I mean, he's 6'9" with a 7-foot+ wingspan as a wing. And then Kamenia, the exciting white that came off the bench for Duke, just his aggressiveness, his motor, it was relentless in there. So, you know, guys, to me, I feel like a bad game for sophomore season Carter Knox should be like 8 to 10 points and a half dozen rebounds. Like he should just get that throughout the flow of the game, in my opinion, because he's a physical player, he's athletic, and he's, you know, should always be relentless on the glass and getting downhill, where he does a good job typically of drawing fouls and making free throws. So that part of the motor, maybe it comes and goes a little bit right now. It seems like he's having a really hard time with his angles when he's driving it, and his reads against really good opponents. They've got to get him going. Like, there's no doubt about that. So, you know, we talk about the team stuff. Okay, yeah, can you chill out when teams get on runs on you? Got to get better at executing in crunch time. Getting Carter going is, I think, really, really high up on the list. Some of the other guys are trending in the right direction. Like, I feel a little bit more comfortable about DJ. I feel like Ewan is trending in the right direction. Carter, he's had a couple double-doubles mixed in here, but the better the competition, the bigger the struggle, it seemed like. And that's just odd to me, because he was kind of the opposite of that last year. Still trying to find his way, you know? But my thought on this is, like, they've got to get him going for sure. And frankly, though, until they do, I'm just not sure anyone has a leg to stand on. If you're in the camp complaining about the freshman guards taking half the total shots, like, if Carter can't even get any shots off when he touches the ball, and, you know, DJ is missing layups and threes, who the heck is supposed to be getting the volume there? Like, TB's been an 8 to 10 shot a game guy, which is I'm good with. I think that's perfect for him. But who else do you want taking a ton of shots? Do you really want Billy shooting volume jumpers? Nick Pringle? You know, like, you need Carter to be that third option. And him and DJ, man, those two returners, I think, are the key to unlocking that next level for this group, which is it's still a work in progress, of course. And speaking of work in progress, like I told you earlier, I did some research and I want to share it with you. And I think that you will walk away feeling a little bit better about the process. But first, I've got to tell you about our partners over at the Eye Center of Northwest Arkansas. I'm glad that I have my glasses for this rewatch. I've been a lot of screen time last several days. We stay up late, the eyes are tired, you're fixated on the screen, scrolling through social media, sending a bunch of text messages, trying to rewatch these games. It's been something. Shout out to the Eye Center, man. They're award-winning, and eye doctors are they're board certified. They're professionally active. They got all the qualifications, but their patients talk most about how caring and friendly they are. I don't like going to the doctor, any kind of doctor, but they make me feel comfortable, and that's why I hang out with them. So check them out, man. They have availability for eye exams with their new provider, Dr. Rebecca Brown, right now, as well as their other providers available to fit into your schedule. They do Botox, filler, and IPL with their aesthetics provider, Olivia Risch. She's been a registered nurse for over 12 years and get you squared away before the end of 2025. Heck, you can buy a treatment in advance for one of your loved ones if you're looking for a little holiday gift action. If you missed out on Black Friday sales, hit up the Eye Center and surprise one of your loved ones. Schedule an appointment today with the Eye Center of Northwest Arkansas, 479-442-2020. You can also check out their website at www.eyecenternwa.com for more info. When John Calipari came over, I was having a lot of deja vu, just a lot of flashbacks with the Silverfield deal, because I remember when, me and John and Scotty went out to Drakefield when the plane was coming for Cal. And that was wild. But I also remember just the nonstop, everything we post, everything about it. BBN was just in the mentions saying all these things. And a lot of it was bitter nonsense. Okay. But some of it's rung sort of true. And one of those things is his built for March bid, right? Where, his teams kind of look like a mess early. They gradually improve throughout the course of the season. And they're usually playing some pretty darn good basketball by the end of the year. We also heard a lot of folks saying, don't get your hopes up for these early showcase games. Every time I would tweet out about a game that Arkansas scheduled, a big time game, I would get the people saying, enjoy that early L. Don't worry, you're built for March. I'm like, God, shut up. You guys are annoying. And I still feel that way. But to their point, I went and crunched the numbers. And so I went back 6 seasons to see what these patterns are. So, right, the year where COVID ended things, I went back the year before that. So it's kind of when the transfer portal became the most prevalent, and then from there, NIL has evolved. It just seemed like the most relevant space for the era that we're currently in. But anyway, I crunched the numbers, and I calculated the records for Cal against high major opponents, or notable opponents, I guess you should say, in the first month of the season. Basically, November games. The only exception to that was that weird year, 2021. That started late because everything was pushed back because of COVID. So I couldn't just qualify it as November games, like first month of the season games, like when you really don't know who you are, what you have, and you're trying to figure that out. So here's what Cal did. 2019 beat Michigan State. 2020, and this is a rough year for them. And so this is responsible for a lot of it, but they lost to Kansas, lost to Georgia Tech, lost to Notre Dame, lost to North Carolina, lost to Louisville. Again, that was the year that started a little bit late because of COVID. That was his really, really bad team, if you remember. But it happens. 2021, lost to Duke. 2022, lost to Michigan State, lost to Miami. 2023, lost to Kansas, beat Miami. 2024, lost to Baylor, lost to Illinois. If you recall, that was with Arkansas last year, the 24-25 season. And so far in 2025, or his November slate in 2025, lost to both Michigan State and to Duke. So in that time frame, folks, John Calipari in these higher profile games, 2-13. Yikes. Wow. I was surprised when I was doing the math. And if you just wanted to throw out that stupid COVID year altogether, he's still like 2-9 or whatever. So not great. Okay. Then I went and did December. So basically a month worth of games under your belt, and then that final stretch before league play. Again, that late start year screws all this up because basically you started right around Thanksgiving. And so your first month was the entire month of December, and then they went straight into league play. So I had to take that one out because it's not relevant once you get into SEC games. But December games and the years that made sense, like 2019, won over Georgia Tech, lost to Utah and Ohio State, but beat Louisville. 2021, lost to Notre Dame, but beat North Carolina. 2022, beat Michigan, but lost to UCLA. 2023, beat North Carolina, beat Louisville. 2024, the Razorbacks, beat Miami, that road game, SEC, ACC Challenge, and beat Michigan. So over that same frame, remember we just said 2-13 in that first month. Well, in December, in that same stretch, 8-4. Much, much better. So for what it's worth, that same stretch in SEC play, so you stunk beginning, got quite a bit better right before league play, and then during that same stretch of years in SEC play, John Calipari's teams have gone 70-35. And that's with that really bad Kentucky team in 2021 and last year's Arkansas team that was injury-riddled and started 0-5. Won twice as many games as he lost. Bad early, get better, hit your stride. It's a pretty consistent trajectory that his teams tend to have. And the way I look at it, good morning. We flipped the calendar to December with Louisville, Texas Tech, and Houston coming up the next few weeks. I would hope those trends continue for the Razorbacks. Because if Cal's been winning twice as many of these December tests as he's been losing, that would mean Arkansas goes 2-1 in that 3-game stretch to close out non-conference play, and we're feeling pleased as a peach with how things are going. If Arkansas wins 2 out of 3 of those games, aren't y'all feeling great? Especially if they don't screw anything up with, Fresno State or whoever's left. I would. And believe it or not, and we're going to talk a lot more about the Louisville game, obviously, the next couple of days. Arkansas is now a 3-point home underdog against Louisville Wednesday at KenPom. They're a 1-point favorite, according to Torvik, but BPI has Louisville with a 74.5% chance to come into Bud Walton Arena and leave with the win. I'm worried about the crowd and atmosphere because I get it. It's a midweek. It's a Wednesday. It's an early tip. I think it's a 6 o'clock tip. Take a half day at work. You got to use up that PTO before the end of the year anyway. Do it for this. Make the drive. Get your butts to Bud Walton Arena for this game. It's a big one for Arkansas. They can really put them in a great spot. We're going to talk about why here in just a second. But first, we got to talk about why you need to hit our friends at Walter Christmas Lighting of Arkansas so they can take care of all your holiday lighting needs. If you're in the River Valley or Northwest Arkansas, hit up Walter Christmas Lighting. They'll set up your house with professional Christmas lighting like you've never seen before. You guys can probably repeat this verbatim, right? They provide all the materials, any color, any pattern. They do the installation, free maintenance throughout the holiday season, and they come do all the takedowns for you in January. Text our guy Brett for a free estimate at 479-459-1380. Check out their website at walterchristmaslighting.com or like them on Facebook by scanning that QR code on your screen. Now's the time to get those Christmas lights up, folks. We're past Thanksgiving. December has arrived. It's time to get decked out for the holidays. Hit them up. Good people over there at Walter Christmas Lighting of Arkansas. They have taken care of me for both Halloween and Christmas. I appreciate them. Okay, let me get a sip here. I just realized we're about a half hour into the show, and based on my notes, we're just getting started. So buckle up. The AP poll, it'll be out at noon on Monday. I don't anticipate Arkansas being in it. Maybe cling on to number 25 or something. It's interesting because while they did take a loss, I think that they earned quite a bit of respect nationally. And I would imagine that a good amount of voters in the AP poll who had not watched Arkansas play, like physically with their own eyes, did in that Thanksgiving game. And so you might look at them and see the loss, but be like, shoot, are there 25 teams better than them? I hope that's the case. And if so, then maybe they'll be okay there. But, like UCLA, for example, took a really bad loss. They were at 18. They were a little bit higher than Arkansas, but they should really get punished for that. NC State struggled in Maui. They went 1-2. They were right behind Arkansas. So that would be a team that would drop out before the Razorbacks. But at the same time, Vandy and Indiana, who are 24-25, they'll both pass Arkansas. They both had really good weeks. So who might that be? I don't know. Like next up in the receiving votes category, Wisconsin, it won't be them. Kansas will probably be back in there. Kansas went 3-0 at Players Era, and they beat Tennessee. So they'll probably be back in there. Yeah, I think Arkansas probably drops out for the time being. But if you just do what you're supposed to do over the course of this next week, then, I mean, they're going to be right back in there solidly this time a week from now. So don't be discouraged. I probably will not be ripping the AP poll to shreds like normal when we do this show tomorrow, because I don't blame them if they drop Arkansas. It's pretty simple to me. Arkansas is absolutely one of the best 25 teams in the country, and that will be reflected when it's all said and done. Right now, they don't have anything on their resume to validate it. You know, and a lot of other teams were able to pick that up. A lot of other teams I don't think are as good as Arkansas, but at least they have a win to kind of hang their hat on. And through the first month of the season, Arkansas just doesn't have that yet, and that's okay. It's the same idea with the net rankings that will drop officially here on Monday morning as well. Oh, boy. We'll talk about this quite a bit, I'm sure, tomorrow once we see exactly what it looks like. Remember that these change literally every day. And Arkansas still has about, 15 quad 1 games and probably more than 20 Q1 and Q2 games left to be played. So this is going to be completely different by the time we get to the end of the year. My prediction for where Arkansas is going to land in the debut, probably somewhere around 40-ish, give or take a few spots, maybe in the 30s somewhere. Let me check. We used Warren Nolan's projections to find, they've got those net projections. Let me pull this up for Arkansas real quick and see if it's changed. Yeah, it still shows Arkansas at number 35, which is, I think, exactly what they were last week when we pulled that stuff up. So, okay, that might be about right. Somewhere in that range, 35 to 40 is where I expect Arkansas to debut in the net. Some missed opportunities, sure. Like they've got their 2 losses or 2 high quality competitive losses, if you're into that sort of thing. No wins of note yet. That the best one is going to be a Q3 against Winthrop at home. The results-based metrics for Arkansas kind of stink right now because you don't have any tangible results. The predictives are pretty solid, though. I mean, top 35 in BPI and KenPom and Torvik. One thing that I thought was notable, last week we kind of talked about Arkansas' strength of schedule hurting them because they were so low. It's 318th, and we're like, well, why is that? Well, it's because, they went on the road and played Michigan State, but all these other low majors have higher strength of schedules right now because they're playing all their bye games. They're the sacrificial lambs. Well, when they get to their conference schedule and they're playing a bunch of Q4s, well, all of a sudden it bounces back out. Meanwhile, Arkansas is playing a quad 1 in the SEC every night. But to go to show you how quickly it can change, one game on a neutral floor against Duke, and Arkansas's strength of schedule at Warren Nolan at least went from 318 to 124, almost 200 spots higher. I'm guessing that it will be top 100 after playing Louisville on Wednesday. So how about just get a nice home win, right? Like just restore the sanctity of Bud Walton Arena and beat Louisville at home, and then beat a Fresno State team that had been looking better than advertised until they lost to Cal State Bakersfield Sunday. And then let's take a look at this next week. If Arkansas goes 2-0 this week, I bet we're feeling much, much better about where the Razorbacks will sit at that point compared to where they might be in some of these things that we see throughout the course of the day on Monday. Is that fair? I hope so. Hey, folks, Blue Ember Smokehouse is a family-owned smokehouse specializing in handcrafted barbecue. From tender brisket to home-cooked sides, you'll find a hearty meal for every member of the family. We will be at the Blue Ember location in Rogers on Wednesday from noon to 2 for Inside Arkansas Live. That's the day of the Louisville basketball game, so come hang out with us for lunch. We're going to go live out there, have a good time, get some grub before we go watch the Razorbacks get a big win over Louisville. And look, you can go in there and eat and enjoy yourself. They also have huge ice cream cones, like awkwardly big ice cream cones that you can get in there. But also check out their great deals this holiday season, and you know, feed the whole family and your loved ones there. I don't know if anybody took advantage of the Thanksgiving offer that we continue to put out there, but it was sick, and like it goes for Christmas and everything too. You can get a whole turkey that feeds 18 to 20 for $69.95, a turkey breast that'll feed a dozen or so for $54.95, or you can go with the ham that feeds 18 to 20 for $65. They got all the sides: mac and cheese, green beans, potato salad, baked beans, sweet potato casserole, half pan or full pan. Contact the individual stores for more info and specific pricing with all their convenient locations across Arkansas. You can see the number right there on your screen for all their 6 locations in Fort Smith, Jonesboro, Texarkana, Little Rock, Hot Springs, and Rogers. Or you can check out their website, www.blueembersmokehouse.com. Thank you for supporting your local Blue Ember Smokehouse. Okay. Let's see here. A couple other things I want to do. It's Monday, so we have to update the SEC power rankings. Sorry in advance, okay, for anybody who's going to get mad at me here. The first thing I want to do, though, we just kind of talked about Arkansas and, you know, like the AP poll or the net or whatever. And I believe this. I think Arkansas is clearly one of the best 25 teams in the country. And I think they will be. But for anyone who doesn't vote them that way or have them in their rankings or whatever, it's hard to argue too much with that right now. It's not that they've been poor, but they just don't have that win to back it up right now. You know what I mean? Like, congrats on the close losses. So I went through before I put together the power rankings. So these are not those yet, but I just kind of listed, I went to KenPom and I listed every SEC team's best win through the first month of the season. So let me pull this up and get a sip of water. If you don't mind, you can look at it for a second. Oh, okay. Needed that. And so herein lies the problem for Arkansas right now, because I think they're better than a lot of these teams, but they don't have the win to back it up. The best win in the SEC right now is Tennessee's. I got to give them credit. We talked about it a little bit last week. Like, you know, like Rick Barnes, man, regular season Rick. It's inevitable. It's crazy. People do like the January, February Izzo thing for March and just like take the entire regular season and just put Rick Barnes. But they went and beat Houston, and that was a hell of a win for them. Now they lost to Kansas the next day, but how can you be mad at them for that? You know, the day after you play Houston, you're probably going to lose to anybody. It's a war. But that's a heck of a win. And they were one of those teams who hadn't played anyone yet, and I didn't know what to do with them. They look pretty good over at Players Era. So that's going to be reflected when we update the rankings in a minute. Bama, yeah, they've got a couple losses. They got smacked around a little bit by Gonzaga, but, you know, winning against Illinois on a neutral, winning at St. John's, you know, 2 top 20 KenPom teams. It's a hell of a haul through a month of the season. Shout out to Auburn. And they played Houston very well. They lost that game. They beat Oregon, which, so you see that, as you know, I watched it at Players Era, and you think, okay, man, that's a nice win for them, Oregon. But then I went and looked, and they're like 85th or something in KenPom. Like, okay, so they might be down. But they did beat St. John's. The SEC is feasting on St. John's right now. They might be fraudulent at the moment. Like, they're just 4-3, but still, it's a top 20 KenPom win on the resume. That's a Q1 there for Auburn early. Stephen Pearl's doing a nice job. Texas, I don't think they've looked very good. They did not look as good as Arkansas did against Duke. They had a stinky loss against Arizona State out in Maui, but to their credit, they rebounded and beat the Fighting Will Wades, who were 29th at KenPom. NC State. Vanderbilt. Remember how I kept saying, man, they passed the eye test. I want to rank them higher, but they got to go beat somebody. Like, they haven't played anyone yet. They haven't done anything. They haven't played anyone crazy, you know, like not a high major type of team or whatever. But I tell you what, they beat the absolute brakes off of St. Mary's. St. Mary's is number 31 at KenPom, and they beat them by 25. And they beat VCU, who's a top 50 KenPom team, by 15. Vanderbilt looks like a wagon. They are cooking right now. So kudos to them for a really nice feast week. Florida, they're struggling. Like, they lost to Arizona. They've had some stinky performances out there. They got beat by TCU. Not what you want. But they did beat Miami, so that's a top 50 Ken Pom team for them. They did beat Providence, who isn't very good, but it's still a Big East team. So they got a couple wins there that you can look at tangibly. Teams that you've heard of, right? Ole Miss, they had a rough week. They do have a win over Memphis. We know that Memphis is not very good. They're at 69th in the Ken Pom rankings. Oklahoma looked rough, to say the least, in their early test against Gonzaga. Who else got them? Nebraska got them. They beat Marquette. That's a name brand. Shaka Smart. They are 79th at Ken Pom. They're struggling. That's a Marquette team that's looking more and more bubblicious every day, but still, okay, that's their best win. Texas A&M has looked stinky. They beat Florida State. Florida State, we know, is not a good team in the ACC. They're 81st in the rankings there at Ken Pom, but they beat them by like 35. So there's that, and they needed that after a couple of really, really rough performances that they've had. Georgia, they beat Xavier. That's a nice win for Georgia. Like Xavier, the first year under Richard Pitino, I think they're still very clearly trying to figure some things out over there at Xavier. But hey, like it's one of the tests that you've had so far, and that's a good win for Georgia. They're one spot behind Arkansas at Ken Pom overall, and that's not their only win. Like you got Xavier, they also beat Georgia Tech. Again, Georgia Tech's not a very good ACC school, but it's a couple high major wins, and their only loss right now is to Clemson by 3. Then you get to Arkansas. Now you get to the teams that do not have a top 100 Ken Pom win through a month of the season. Arkansas's best win is Winthrop. And so that's where you're going to see some of the voters who go, yeah, okay, that it's all great. You guys look like a lot of fun. You're probably going to be really good, but you got to do something. And Winthrop is better than, I mean, as you can see right here, if you look at it, a bunch of, more well-known teams that some of these other SEC teams have beat. But this is why I think this Louisville game is so important for Arkansas. Because if you do that, so let's see, where is Louisville? Let me look real quick at Ken Pom. They're number 9 right now. So Arkansas wins that game. All of a sudden, they've got the second best win in the SEC. And then the entire barometer changes for this team. Real quick for the rest of them, like Mizzou, their best win is over Minnesota. Okay, you beat a Big Ten team. They're 115th at Ken Pom. LSU, you beat DePaul. They stink, 116. Mississippi State, just a train wreck, by the way. New Orleans. And they went to overtime to do it, to beat them. They're number 181. We're not talking about the Pelicans either. Kentucky, again, now this is a Kentucky. So you think about Arkansas, and they've had 2 very competitive losses to really good teams, but not a great win. Kentucky has 2 ass whoopings that have been handed to them by really good teams, and they haven't beat a top 200 Ken Pom team yet. So when people see that I've got them, in the double digits or whatever, the power rankings, like what am I supposed to do with that? South Carolina beat Southern Miss. They're number 214 in Ken Pom. So there you go. Congratulations. But just to show you what we're working with here right now. And so when you see the net and you see the AP poll and you want to know what some of the factors are in this is a big part of it. And looking ahead for Arkansas, I mean, Louisville, 9th currently at Ken Pom. Texas Tech, 28th. They've been struggling a little bit. Texas Tech has. And Houston, 6th. And then honestly, the other teams that you have don't stink. Like Fresno State's still at 156. I mean, that's better than some of the other teams on here's best win. You know what I mean? Queens has struggled, but James Madison's at 165. They're going to be competitive in their league. So some opportunities for Arkansas to put together a strong non-conference resume here, but you just got to go win a game at some point. And we certainly hope that happens, Wednesday. Okay, let me flip over to these power rankings real quick. All right. Here we have it. Yell at me if you like to. I've already explained a good amount of these, but we'll roll through them pretty quick. We're starting at the bottom and work our way up. Mississippi State. Listen, I've still got them in the basement. They're bad. They're just a bad basketball team. 3-4 right now. We've talked about some of their transgressions. They lost to SMU. That was kind of their feast week game. Lost that one. Yeah, they stink. They play Georgia Tech Wednesday in the SEC ACC Challenge, but disappointing team for Chris Jans so far. South Carolina, yeah, I mean, they just haven't done anything. I don't think their losses, like they don't have any nasty losses. Like Butler beat them, Northwestern beat them. Those teams ranked 44 and 53rd at KenPom, respectively. They were competitive games, but they also haven't beat anyone. They just kind of are where they are. Texas A&M, I've got at 14. Mention them. Yeah, I mean, they beat Florida State 95-59. So beat the brakes off of them, and they got beat up on by Oklahoma State and UCF, the only other good teams that they played. So still a ways to go. That's a nice win for them. They play Pitt on the road on Tuesday in the ACC Challenge. LSU, I got to be honest with you, I've got them at 13. Like they look certainly better, but it's just hard to tell how much because they haven't really played anybody. Friday and Saturday, they played in some MTE. They beat Drake on Friday, and you hear that and you think, oh, wow, that's a good win. But remember, their coach and his entire team are all at Iowa now. But they're still 127 at KenPom. They beat DePaul by 30, so that was a big win for them, the Fighting Layden Blockers there. But, they've obviously still got more to prove, but they are 7-0. So they get Boston College on Wednesday in the ACC Challenge. They play Texas Tech over the weekend too, so that'll be one to keep an eye on maybe for Razorback fans if you're trying to do the transitive property thing. This is where I had a hard time from like 12 to 7. I really feel like you could put them in any order. I've still got Texas at 12, and maybe that's not fair. They beat NC State. They beat Will Wade's squad by 5. That's easily their signature win. They have 2 losses, one to Duke by 15, and then one to an Arizona State team that's not very good down in Maui. Is a 1-point game, and Tremont Mark literally kicked it away out there. So noted with that nice win there. I still need to see more before I bump them up in that top 10 range personally. They've got Virginia coming to their place on Wednesday for the ACC Challenge. Take care of business in that one, and then maybe we can talk about it. Ole Miss, I have at 11. They were another one of those teams where we were like, okay, they look pretty good. They got to play somebody at some point so we can figure out what they're all about. Well, they played 2 somebodies, and they lost both those games. So lost a competitive one on a neutral to Iowa, who is good. Top 25 KenPom team. Okay. But then they lost by 1 to Utah, who is not good. Picked near the bottom of the Big 12. They're sub 100 over at KenPom. That's not a good loss for them. They've got Miami coming on Tuesday for the ACC Challenge. Chris Beard's boys need to get that one. They got St. John's on this weekend as well on the road. And all the SEC teams are beating up on St. John's, so they might want to take advantage of that as well. But that's where I've got them. Kentucky, they stayed put for me. Didn't do anything. I mean, they beat Tennessee Tech by 50, the Fighting John Pelfreys. Congratulations. It's one of the worst teams in the country, Tuesday evening, they host North Carolina. And then Friday, they play Gonzaga. So 2 big opportunities for Kentucky there. Listen, they'll probably get North Carolina at home, right? Like they'll probably win that game at Rupp. But if they don't, like if they lose both of these games, man, dude, I can't even imagine what Pope's press conferences would be like. You want to talk about crash outs? Woo! Heat will be on. I moved Oklahoma up to 9. I might have moved them up a little bit too far. I don't know. Again, like from 7 to 12, I'm having a hell of a time figuring it out right now. Need some more data. But they beat Marquette. And again, Marquette is not what they've been the last couple years, but I do think that's notable. It was kind of like a semi-away game for them, and they got it done. They won by 1 point. They needed a win on their resume over a power conference school. They have one. Arkansas doesn't right now. They play Wake Forest on the road. That's going to be really interesting Tuesday. I think that's going to tell us if, is Oklahoma really like a middle of the pack SEC tournament caliber team, or do they really have a hell of a lot of work to do? These actually 3 games coming up for them that I think are going to be very telling. They are at Wake Forest Tuesday, Saturday. They've got Arizona State, and then the following Saturday they have Oklahoma State on a neutral floor. Those 3 games, like if they go 2-1 in those, we can look at them and be like, okay, they're probably pretty good. Anything below that, okay, they've definitely got some questions that need to be answered here. Missouri, I've got at 8. I initially had them at 12, actually, and I wound up moving it. I just don't. I don't know. I mean, they beat Minnesota by 23. That's nothing to write home about. They're undefeated. They're 8-0. I mean, just here are the KenPom rankings of the teams that they have beaten: 311, 234, 342, 114, 301, 269, 347, 298. I've already talked myself into having Missouri too high. I should have moved them below some of these teams, I think, maybe. Whatever. We'll know more by the time we do this again. Tuesday, they play Notre Dame on the road, and Sunday, they play Kansas in that bragging rights game of theirs. So we'll know if they're for real or not by then. Georgia, somehow, I moved them up to 7. Maybe I felt like I was a Georgia hater at the beginning of the year, but every time I watch them, I'm kind of like, man, you know what? This team is fun, and they can score. And I like some of the things they got going on. They played a top 5 tempo in the country. I like teams that play fast. That's probably part of it. But they've looked pretty solid so far. I don't know how much staying power they have once we get into league play. But right now, I think I've got to have them in the top half of the SEC. They're 7-1. Their only loss came to Clemson in overtime. 3-point game. They beat Xavier. They beat Georgia Tech. And then they've just blasted everybody else. They beat up on the Fighting John Pelfreys also. They've got Florida State on the road Tuesday. They need to handle business in that one. They've got, looks like a neutral against Cincinnati on Saturday. They need to win both those games to justify staying there, I guess we should say. I moved Arkansas to 6th. I had to drop them. And it's not just because they lost to Duke, because, I mean, I spent the first, 20, 25 minutes talking about, despite the loss, how impressed I was with the improvements that they've made, and still remain very bullish on this Arkansas team. I think they're going to be really good. A few more things to figure out. I wish they would have won one of these games. They didn't. Okay. I'm not devastated by it, but you still have to beat someone, and that needs to happen soon. And there were other teams that I just gave Arkansas the benefit of the doubt over, because at least they had tested themselves, who have now tested themselves and picked up some quality wins. And so for now, I've got to have them over Arkansas. It's only fair to be objective. And we could argue whether or not Arkansas should be over Florida, who I have at number 5. Because like they lost to Arizona, there's no shame in that. They lost to TCU. That is not a good loss for Florida. But they do have a double-digit win over Providence. They do have a double-digit win over Florida. They did beat Florida State. So they do have 3 high major wins to go with those 2 losses, and I've got to factor that in. So slightly, and I think Arkansas has been the more impressive team if you watch them. But because they've got 3 high major wins right now, I got to keep Florida a notch above Arkansas for the time being. They go to Duke on Tuesday, and I'm going to be really interested to see how that works. Don't be surprised if Florida beats Duke. Now, Boogie and Xavier Lee have been a mess, but if there is a team out there that can just throw body after body at Cam Boozer and slow that operation down, and he is just pretty much everything they have, Florida would be that team, right? And then next Tuesday they play Connecticut, so we'll have an even better feel for Florida also a week from now. Vanderbilt, I moved up to number 4, and dang it, I was tempted to move them higher. I'm very impressed with Vandy. They are up to 10th at KenPom, by the way. Double-digit road win at UCF. Last week on back-to-back days, they beat VCU by 15. They beat St. Mary's by 25. Highest scoring team in the country, number 4 in the country in offensive efficiency, almost top 25 in defensive efficiency. Like they're kicking butt, man. They play SMU at home on Wednesday. They're probably going to run them right out of the gym. I don't think Vanderbilt's going to be tested again until they play Bama January 7th. They got SMU, Central Arkansas, Memphis, who stinks. It's on the road, though. They're at Wake Forest. That's kind of interesting. New Haven, South Carolina, then Bama. Yeah, Vandy's cooking, man. Auburn, I moved them up to number 3. And here's the tough thing about it, but you have to consider how this players era thing works. Because they really struggled. If you guys remember opening night, they went to overtime with Bethune-Cookman at home, and we're like, okay, these dudes are really struggling. But since then, they beat Merrimack by 40. They beat Wofford by 30. They had that 1-point loss, super competitive game against Houston. They beat Jackson State by 50. They beat Oregon by double digits. Well, then the next day, they played that Michigan team and lost by 30. And so it's like, okay, you got clapped by Michigan. But guess what? The night before that, Michigan beat San Diego State by 40. The night after that, they beat Gonzaga by 30. So they just kicked everyone's butt at players era, and Auburn was one of those teams. But then they bounced back and got a double-digit win over St. John's the next day. So I've got to give them credit where it's due, man. They look good. I think they've still got some things to figure out. They're very dependent on 2 guys on that team. Not as good as they have been defensively, not as good on the glass, but got some nice wins mixed in right away. They host Will Wade, North Carolina State on Wednesday for the ACC Challenge. And then Saturday, they have a road game at Arizona. So get out of that with a split. You probably feel pretty good about where you're at. They could easily lose both of those games. Well, we'll see. They're hard to beat at home. Tennessee, I moved up to number 2 for now. They hadn't played anyone. They went to players era. They played 3 straight games, blasted Rutgers. Congratulations. Rutgers isn't very good, but you took care of business there. Beat Houston, and then they turned around and lost to Kansas by 5. And you can look at that and say, well, Kansas doesn't have Darren Peterson. Well, Kansas did go to players era and went 3-0 without him. And that's literally less than 24 hours after you just played a team like Houston. It doesn't matter who they drew. They were probably going to wind up losing that game. But they've looked pretty good. They've got my respect. Jacoby Gillespie's a hell of a player. Nate Ament has been solid. And their front court, they've just got body after body they can throw at you. They're not that talented. They don't score a bunch of points, but you know how they are. They grind you. Right now, they're top 20 in both offensive and defensive efficiency, so I got to give them credit there. They travel to Syracuse. That's an interesting game on Tuesday, and then over the weekend, they have a neutral site against Illinois. And then they have 10 days off, and they play Louisville. So there's that. Alabama, I kept at number 1, and they took an L, but they had a nice win too, so at this point, you have an Alabama team who has won at St. John's. They beat Illinois on a neutral. They blew out UNLV, and they beat Maryland by 33. So a pretty nice collection of wins there. They lost that game to Purdue, and they lost to Gonzaga by 10 at players era. So they're looking good. They get Clemson at home for the ACC Challenge. They will probably smack those dudes around, I would imagine. But there you have it, your updated SEC power rankings. I'm done. For a minute there, I was like, gosh, this is going to be like an hour and a half long deal. No, we sped it up a little bit, but it was fun. Gosh, I'm telling you, I know I said it at the beginning. I got to say it again. It just feels really good to talk ball. And by ball, I mean round ball, hoops, man. There's never a must-win game early in seasons, and Arkansas could lose all 3 of these and big non-conference games the rest of the way, and then be good in SEC play and be fine. Like it's too early to do that kind of thing. But I don't know about y'all, just from a vibes standpoint, from a fan standpoint, you just feel so beaten down. Like you're just coming off of a 2-10 football season. You didn't win a game in the SEC. It was weird. The interim coach thing, it didn't work out with Bobby. You thought you were going to get that, excitement, and then you get surprised with who the hire is, and you're trying to rationalize it, do the mental gymnastics in your head. You're pissed off at Hunter Yurachek. Basketball team couldn't beat Duke when you had the big stage. And for me, it's just like, okay, it's something good needs to happen. for Razorback fans. And here you are, home game, Bud Walton Arena, top 10 program coming in Louisville. It's time. This is the time. This is the moment for Arkansas to get one. And I hope that the crowd and the atmosphere reflects the gravity of this game, because it's a big one. And I'm very, very anxious to see what this Razorback team looks like when they've got that type of, when they got a rocking Bud Walton Arena backing them, because I have a feeling we'll be pretty impressed with what we see, but they need to get it done. We'll talk about that a little bit more tomorrow. We'll react to the net rankings and the AP poll and have some different stuff. We have a press conference at noon today with, who are they sending up there? Malik Thomas. So I bet we'll get some good sound bites from that. We'll react to that as well. But going to get out of here for the day. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. As always, subscribe to the Inside Arkansas YouTube channel. Find us wherever you find your podcast, Apple, Spotify, you name it. You can listen there. And yeah, we'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Been Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas on the Pod at the Palace. You guys have a good rest of your day. We'll see you next time.